Yeah.
Cool. Turn it up? Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you, Nick. As a warning, I'm recording this for my purposes, and I didn't know there's going to be this many people, so thank you for showing up.
Yeah.
Thank you all for putting your interest in this panel and almost matching Muscle Mommy Mayhem for how many people were interested in this. I was watching the numbers like, you gotta be kidding me, this is crazy. So welcome to Bridges and Video Games. I'm going to talk about the structural design and capacity of various bridges I've seen in some of the video games I've played, seen played, and have definitely always emerged victorious like the ones on the screen. I'll discuss a little bit about bridge design, what kinds of forces we're looking at, and what video games get right, and oh so terribly wrong. So is anybody here, I know at least one person, is anybody here an engineer? Oh my gosh. Is anybody here a structural engineer? No? Oh, did I see somebody? No, maybe not. Nice, nice. Does anybody work for GDOT, Georgia Department of Transportation, by chance? Oh, cool. Okay, please keep. Oh yeah, it's all good. I just want to keep begging for work. So here are my credentials. I went to Georgia Tech. I graduated in 2015. Go Jackets. I have over 10 years in design, maintenance, and inspection of bridges. I'm a licensed PE in the states of Georgia and South Carolina. I'm going to be working on my Florida one as well, because that's where my company has a lot of work. I'm also a certified bridge inspector, so I can be a team lead out there looking at the bridge itself and making sure that's all good. Are you CBI?
I'm just questioning, can you please turn up? I cannot hear you.
Oh yeah, please do.
I have hearing problems.
Yeah, I feel like I'm also kissing the mic, which I know not everybody wants to do. And then as a fun little note, I worked on the 2024 ASCE, the American Society of Civil Engineers. I worked on the report card for the state of Georgia. So it lists all the different infrastructure in Georgia and gives them grades based on how it's going. The bridges this year, or that year, got a B+, so not terrible. Hey, that's really passing a 10. So my nerdy credentials, my first Christmas ever was getting a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Yellow, and I didn't want to open up any other presents, I just wanted to play that. I counted my hours on Steam and Switch, which was a mistake. And then also had a Game Boy, DS, PS2, Xbox 360, and then I have way too much Splatoon merch to be considered normal. I mean, you can see my Splatoon bag right here that I was unpacking for. So just a disclaimer, what this presentation is going to be is informative, hopefully, interactive possibly. I do have a Q&A session at the end. Maybe comedic, my mom says I'm funny. And a misguided attempt at all three of the ones above. And it also, I'm trying to make it spoiler free for any video games, even the ones that have been out for a while. Just trying to make sure that I'm not spoiling anything here. What it's not a representation of my company. Most of you, I've told one person, but most of you don't know who I work for, so it shouldn't be a problem, I hope. But if you happen to find me on LinkedIn, you'll know, it doesn't really matter. I'm also not complaining about video game designers. They know how to design video games and not bridges. I know how to design bridges and not video games, so I'm not trying to attack any of them. Additionally, it's not about polybridge. That's just like taking work home with me. I don't want to do that. And then I'm also not going to mention Smash Brothers because Brian David Gilbert did a great OSHA presentation on the Smash Brothers stages, and I recommend watching that instead of asking me about it. So let me talk about what is a bridge. According to the American Association of State and Highway Transportation Officials, AASHTO, it has to be 20 feet long. That's it, just from span to span. Anything less than that is called a culvert. So any of the boxes that just carry little streams underneath the interstate, those are culverts. Anything longer than that is a bridge, and usually it's designed. It carries some kind of road, rail, or other transportation pedestrians over some kind of obstruction or feature. So that can be rivers, other roads, railways, gorges in like the west. And then it can be made out of concrete, steel, timber, and on the rare case, aluminum. Those are not very common because steel is typically cheaper and easier to construct with, but there are different ways that you can do that. And then they are also inspected at least every 2 years, sometimes more often. Legally mandated by FHWA to be inspected every 2 years for public safety. So here's some basic bridge types. You get your flat slab, which is just a slab of concrete anywhere from 8 to 12 inches thick roughly. Just get some reinforcement in there and you just span over something. Simplest, easiest design, straightforward. Beam bridges are probably the most common. Those go a little bit further. Those are, you've got a deck on top of it, you've got a beam underneath it. and then that spans over your roadway or your river or whatever you've got. Then you've got your trusses, which you see on here, arch bridges, which are really good in compression. So a lot of the beam bridges and flat slabs, they work well in tension because the force of the truck is pushing down on it and it's starting to bend it down. The arches just work in compression where the force is being spread out by both of the legs of the arch. Then you have the ones that everybody really knows, the very obvious ones, the suspension and cable stayed. We have two cable stayed bridges in Georgia, both in Brunswick and Savannah. Those are the most recognizable ones. Those are the ones that you see in New York. Golden Gate Bridge is a big suspension bridge. Those are not really designed a whole lot because they're very specialized, but if you ever get a chance to work on one, it's pretty cool. I have not, unfortunately. So here's some basic bridge anatomy. So this is what you drive on just about every day. This is how you got here. This is what you've driven under as well. So you have, this is pretty much the standard one that you see in Georgia, is you have a bridge deck that's got barriers so you don't fall off the sides if you happen to get in a wreck. You have some kind of beams underneath that hold up a lot of the load of all the trucks and the cars that are driving over it. And those are usually on top of what's either called piers or bents, is like the kind of colloquial term, not colloquial, the bridge-specific term is a bent. I don't know where they got that term from, it's just what we call it. So you've got different, you can have either concrete columns coming down from a cap where your beams sit on, and then you've also got piles that can come down from that cap. But if you have those columns, they usually go down to some kind of square foundation underneath it. You can also have some shafts that go down pretty far, and that carries all the load into the ground. And there's a lot of geotechnical discussion, a lot of structural discussion getting from the ground up to make sure that it's all gonna stay, so when you drive over it, you're good. And then, who here, outside of my engineers, know what a kip is?
1,000 pounds?
1,000 pounds, a kilo pound. Which always made me laugh as soon as I heard it in a structural engineering class forever ago. Mixing metric and imperial, or makes a little total sense. So that is what you would see a cross section of. The picture on the bottom right is looking underneath at one of our typical bridges that we build in Georgia, these days at least. Sometimes a lot of the ones that you'll see on the interstate are steel, those green steel beams, because they use green paint, not because steel comes from green. And then that truck is our design truck. So it is 72,000 pounds or 72 kips, 36 tons. So that is what we designed for in that configuration. And there's some additional loads, obviously not just a single truck. There's wind loads, there's lane loads, there's, in the north you get ice loads, all sorts of different things that you have designed for. But that is our basic live load, what we call it. So don't panic, these are just common issues that we see all the time. I've seen just about all of this on the inspections I've been on. So the first one I'll talk about is scour, which is probably, water is the most dangerous thing to a bridge overall. A lot of the problems I see are because water got in somewhere where it shouldn't be, or it wasn't designed to be. So you see in the bottom middle is basically a big scour hole where all the water, the turbulence of it will pull out the sand or whatever soil is underneath your bridge foundation, and it'll cause a big hole, and you'll get a taller structure that you didn't design for, so it gets a little bit more unstable. And that is probably the most common issue that you see in a lot of bridges. It's usually not something structural, so don't blame me. You also see some deterioration like you see on the steel member here. Thankfully, from that picture that I found, it looks like it's more of a cross member and not a main beam that you would work on. So it's not the worst thing in the world that that one specifically is deteriorated, but if you see that in any of your main beams that you have, that's something that needs to get fixed very quickly because that can really affect how the bridge's capacity overall. You also see a lot of concrete cracking and spalling. So cracking is just a natural thing that happens to concrete over time, depending on how it's cured or the construction of it. Cracks are usually fine, but you want to fill those in because once water gets in those, it'll touch the rebar, that rebar will start to rust, that rust will expand, and that expansion will cause it to what we call spall out, or basically pop out the concrete. And that causes the structure to lose some of its capacity. Spalls don't necessarily have to be bad. Sometimes they're in places where we're not relying on the structural capacity as much. But that beam on the bottom right there, that is one that you'll want to repair. You'll want to patch it up somehow. They have specific patching concrete that you can use on that you can actually go up and hold it in place. But that is something that you want to repair. The one in the top middle is probably fine. That's where a joint in the bridge is usually at. So that one's just going to naturally happen and is going to be okay for the most part. It's more of an aesthetic thing at that point. And then lastly, speaking of joints, joint leakage is also another huge problem with bridges. Joints last only for like 5 to 10 years because when you're driving 72,000 pound trucks over it every day, that's going to cause a lot of vibration, that's going to start ripping out the joint, so as soon as it starts to pop out a little bit, those trucks are running over it, your cars are running over it, and it just pops right out. One thing I'm remembering that is not on the slide is also settlement. So if you ever drive on the Northwest Corridor express lanes, there's some huge walls that lead up to some bridges. Some of those have some really bad settlement right where the bridge starts, and you feel that bump right as you go onto that bridge. So that's usually a problem with there's an approach slab that goes up to the bridge, and that's probably settled at that point. So that is another common problem that you'll see. So that's all the instruction. So let's talk about video games. All right, let's talk about Pocopia. All right, so this is in the first area, so I tried to not make it spoilery. This is the bridge after I repaired it. The first thing that I noticed with this one is that you have these slats that are running left to right and transverse. Those are not supported by anything. They're just floating there. And I know Pokemon physics and video game physics are out there, but it's not supported by a single thing. There's no magic that says it's there. It's just wrong. So I thought, okay, that's bad enough, and the supports are not great. But what if we rotated those slats and made them like along the length of the bridge? Will those actually hold it up? And because of who I am as a person, I did the math. And I had to make a lot of assumptions because I don't know exactly what timber they use. I kind of guessed on how long it was. And after I did all these, as best assumptions as I could do, I realized it could only hold 13.9 pounds. So I found out some Pokemon that could go on it, some that couldn't. Because their weights are listed on the Pokedex. So, Ditto is fine, which is great because you're playing as Ditto and you're the one that's going to go over the most. The weirdest thing that I found out was that Tatsugiri, the sushi Pokemon, weighs more than Pikachu or Bulbasaur. So don't put your sushi on this bridge, I guess is what I'm getting at. Let's also talk about my time at Sandrock. Has anybody played this game? Or my time at Portia, I think is the pronunciation? Portia, yeah. So it's a farming / exploration / life sim game. It's a sequel to My Time at Portia, if I pronounced that right. And you repair a big bridge in it. So this is it after it's been repaired. Slight spoiler, I guess. I don't know that that really matters a whole lot. The arches, I don't think should be broken up like that. That's going to introduce a lot of stress into your connections. And those connections are a lot of also where you can see some issues in that, that's the points where all the stresses are going to be concentrated when you're driving over this. And this one is also a train bridge, and trains weigh a lot more than any of the trucks. And I'll get into that a little bit later too. So those connections, I really would like to see a design on those. I don't know that those can handle whatever compression forces and maybe twisting that's going into that. Also one thing as a CBI, I think this one's really hard to inspect. What you would have to do is, for anything over a big gorge like this, is get what's called a snooper truck. So it's got a catwalk essentially that goes up and around the bridge and underneath it, and it extends out as far as you can go. But there's a lot of the cross members there that make it really hard to drive that thing back and forth. So it would take a lot of time to inspect it. A thing that's getting a little bit more popular now, more and more popular, is drone inspections. So that, I think, that is a good option for this because the access is really difficult. But there are issues with drone inspections in that you have to actually review the footage that you're looking at. If anybody remembers the bridge from Arkansas to Tennessee in Memphis, that one was done with a drone, but there was a massive crack in it that the drone inspection completely missed. So you have to be very mindful of what you're inspecting. Additionally, in these kinds of connections, you usually see a lot more bolts in these. We have what's called gusset plates. There's another bridge in here that I have that also does something similar to this. But also, there don't seem to be anything that these bolts are connecting. Right. They're just kind of there for aesthetics, which seems like a waste of money and time. So kudos for them for getting the bridge back up, but I think it's got some problems here. All right, let's talk about Stardew Valley. And the two people that are kind of my favorites. So here we go. These are nice bridges, right? No, they're culverts. Culverts, these are less than 20 feet. So the one on the left, my real question for this is, it's on the beach. It's not real, like you can get your feet wet. You're on the beach, you're expecting that. My question is, why does this need 300 pieces of wood to repair? It's just 2 planks. So I suspect Mayor Lewis has some kind of graft under the table, but I'm not going to say anything more public than being recorded. And then for the picture on the right, those aren't too bad. I mean, I used to walk on scaffolding that was definitely OSHA approved. That was like this. What you would really want to do though is, because those boards are bending downwards, a lot of the support that you want is going to be, or a lot of like reinforcement on the concrete slab like that, or on something like this. You'd want all the force resisting things to be on the bottom side, because that's where they're most effective. So I would see those flipped upside down, as they are right now, to be the most effective for this. But hey, we have a not bad culvert here. It's an arch culvert, so it's going to be all working compression. There is a truck that might drive over it, Mayor Lewis's truck, maybe, I don't know for sure. But it should work for this. It's a very short span, it should be okay. My one issue with this one is maybe because it's got riverstone in it. Riverstone is really smooth because it's been eroded away over time. The issue with that is, for concrete, you want very angular stone so that the cement inside the concrete can bind to it. If it doesn't bind to it, then the rocks aren't really doing giving you the compressive strength that you really want. Yeah, sure.
Does the salinity of the water have an impact?
Absolutely, salinity matters. Especially when you go down into Florida, they have a lot of aggressive environments, is what they call it, for all of the ocean water. This is just a river, so the salinity, it's probably fresh water, it's probably okay. But when you get a lot of the salt water in the oceans, that's when you really get some problems. You have to, usually your concrete cover, your distance from your edge of your concrete to your reinforcement, that increases. You can do what's called cathodic protection, which I can talk a little bit about, but I haven't really designed a whole lot because it's kind of a specialized system. You get specialized engineers for that. But there are systems to try to prevent a lot of the salt problems that you can see. So for this one, river rock is really my main concern. Also, there doesn't seem to be much mortar or grout between the rocks. I don't know if that's just the aesthetics of the bridge, or if they just put a veneer on it or something. So it's probably okay for what they need it for people walking over it. This one, probably actually a bridge, not a culvert. But it's going to be a lot of the asterisks on a lot of these, I think.
How is it standing?
That's exactly it. How is it standing? That right side, I don't think that's stable as is. There's a huge overhang from where those supports are coming down into the cliff itself. They seem also super thin for what they're supposed to be doing. So again, another thing that I'd like to see some calculations for, because I'm a nerd. Weird, right? And then when it's repaired and it's actually got everything okay all the way across, the other problem is that all those deck boards in it are transverse, so they're going left to right, which again, you need things going along the length of the bridge to hold it up. So it seems like that railing there is the only thing holding the whole thing together. It's not ideal, I would say. All right, let's talk about Victoria. What must the factory do?
Grow.
Yes, exactly. And then you've got railroads to help you grow, right? Really thin railroads that don't have a lot of support underneath them. So this load on the bottom left here is called the Arima Cooper E80, which is the standard railroad loading. As you might be able to see, maybe not, it's kind of far away for some people in the back, but the largest wheel loads for that are 80,000 pounds, and it goes down, minimum of like 40 to 50,000 pounds, and they're spaced really close together. There's a lot of weight that goes on these railroads. Whenever you drive underneath the railroad bridge, if you look up, which be a safe driver, I'm begging you. But if you're a passenger in a car and can look up, you see a lot of steel beams typically that are very close together, like very tall, very close together, because it's a lot of force that's going into those bridges. This doesn't have that. There's a lot of just space between where there's any supports at all. Maybe gravity is different on the planet you're in Factorio. I would love to know if that's the case, because that would reduce your load a lot. The other problem is momentum. You see how sharp these curves are. You're going over that really quick with some of these trains, especially when you research really high up. They're just going very fast. So momentum is a huge problem. Might bring mood a lap down a little bit. You probably saw the Francis Scott Key Bridge that fell. that's because of momentum of that massive barge. It wasn't even going very fast, but it's that momentum of it carrying into the bridge pier. That was a huge problem. So these trains should slow down, and gravity better be a lot lower. Related, let's talk about railgrade. Has anybody here played railgrade? Oh, okay, cool. I think you're the only person I've ever seen that has said they play railgrade. It is like a real-time strategy, logistics, networking train game, essentially. Got gifted to me by a friend, and I had a lot of fun with it. This one, the supports are a lot closer. You've got your trains, which seem like they're probably a little bit more spaced out than that Arima Cooper E80 load. They actually look like there are beams underneath, which is an improvement from Factorio. So it's maybe not awful. Again, it's really like the beams themselves are pretty tiny, which like you'll see for some car bridges, but not really for rail bridge. So you probably want to double check that with your calculations. But there are some issues with this one. You get some very harsh curves in it, again a momentum problem. You see the beams on the top left, those are really heavily curved. When you get that kind of curved steel, you want to have some kind of steel diaphragms to hold them all together. A lot of the road curved steel girder bridges that you'll see, they'll have a whole bunch of what we call cross frames between the bridges to hold it all together. So that is definitely something that you'll want to see here. Additionally, one other thing I noticed when I was taking screenshots was that they were storing a bunch of material underneath one of these bridges. And for a lot of long-time Atlanta residents, you might know why that might be a problem. I recommend against storing materials underneath bridges, especially if it's flammable. So let's talk about Baldur's Gate 3. So this one here is an arch bridge in Act 1. Again, I was trying to keep spoiler free, so it's just somewhere out there. I think with the way that this is broken, because a lot of games really like breaking bridges, to my dispute. But I think there's probably, for an arch bridge that works only in compression, I think there's too much of a cantilever going out that those arches should still be falling from where they are. So not quite making sense with how this is constructed. Again, a riverstone problem, I think. A lot of these rocks look really smooth, but they at least are grouted together. So one of the other issues with this one, I think, is that underneath it, you can kind of see that broken section of bridge that has dropped down. I believe that one probably should be a lot more broken up than it is. So it's just it's a design thing. I get it. Like I said, I'm not trying to attack video game designers. It just seems kind of odd to me. This one, another one that's actually pretty good. It's working exactly as you expect it to. You have your keystone in there working with the arch. You get a little bit of overgrowth in the vines. You need to clear that out because foliage can cause a problem in the bridges. It'll get between the cement and all the concrete and cause issues with your rocks that you've got in there. The bottom left, or the left picture, you'll probably see some scour in that one over time, so it's just kind of a monitoring thing, just watch, but it looks like it's very rocky out there, so it should be okay for a while. And then here's Worms Crossing in Act 3. That one also looks pretty good. Kind of weird to put a city on top of a bridge, or at least a settlement on a bridge, but as long as you design for it, and arch bridges work really well. I mean, you see the Roman aqueducts are still standing, right? They last for a while. So you're probably pretty good. The only real issue I saw with this one is that my nearly 15-year-old computer couldn't render all of it. So I decided to go underneath it, like I have been with all of these, and try to get pictures looking up at it, right? I don't see anything. Like, legitimately, there's just nothing there. I guess they just decided that nobody's ever going to stop here and take a picture looking up at the bridge in photo mode, so they didn't render anything. Which, odd, but you know what? It seems to be working. There are people that live and work on top of it, so I'm not going to complain anymore. It just seems a little dangerous. Let's talk about Scarlet Violet. This guy, I hate to break it to some of you, it's not a bridge. It says he's an alloy Pokemon, not a bridge Pokemon. He's only 6'5" tall, so even if he was a bridge, he'd be a culvert. I'm sure he looks like it, and he would be on my team, obviously. But you know, it's not a bridge, okay? Don't at me. But this is the bridge out of Mesagoza, the main city that you have in Scarlet Violet. Piers aren't supposed to do that. They're basically driven into the rock or built around the rock. I'm not entirely sure why that's working the way it is. Usually you want to put your foundation on the rock and not through the rock, because that's going to be more stable. And then I found a random little bridge or maybe culvert. I didn't actually check the length of this one outside. Also has some weird supports. Good job, Nintendo. There's some clipping where the like wooden piles are being driven into rock. And if you're trying to drive a wood pile into rock, you're going to splinter the wood before you ever get anywhere inside the rock at all. Unless they like pre-drilled through it, but at that point, why don't you extend that last span to just get to your end of your bridge at that point? You're spending a lot of money for not anything, not any game really. So then let's talk about Destiny 2. This was a request from a friend. It is a FPS about defeating alien threats. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah, so shout out to Nick, my friend, who helped me take all these screenshots because I have not played this game, but he has played it. So for this one, I would say that the white portions of this bridge that go underneath it, those seem to be more decorative. They don't seem to be holding anything up. The rocks that are supporting it, as you see in the right picture, they don't seem to be stable at all. That's all like carved into the rock. So if you're building a bridge into that, you gotta mind your entire geology, not just the top of it where you're putting it. So that can be very dangerous, so you gotta be careful there. Additionally, they have some like steel beams that are going across it. Look pretty good, actually. I have no real complaints about these. My one just question is, why do they spend the money and effort to put all these decorative patterns on the underside of it? Especially when it's going over a gorge like this. Nobody's going to see that if they're driving on this bridge or walking across it. It just seems excessive to me. And also, you have some rocks that seem to be like growing out of your bridge, which probably should be trimmed back or addressed in some manner. That's just going to cause a lot of extra weight, and you're going to get a lot more problems over time. Yes?
Do you think the decorative patterns could be graffiti of some sort?
They seem to be like almost formed into the steel. Like if somebody got down there with a chisel and did it, that could be the case. You do see a lot of graffiti in bridges, especially in the Atlanta area. But even the ones in the rural Georgia or rural, I love that word, rural. The rural areas of the state and country, like you'll see a lot of graffiti on bridges. It's just a natural thing. You have a structure, you have spray paint. You're a poor teenager, you're going to do something dumb. It's fine. I don't personally care, but a lot of people do. So it could have been somebody went down there to do it because as part of the game, or as part of this level, and correct me if I'm wrong, like you're mostly staying underneath the bridge, right? Which I kind of suspected based on the fact that you literally cannot get on top of this bridge. My friend tried so hard to jump up there, could not quite get there. So I don't know what the point of a bridge is if you can't be on top of the bridge. Additionally, there's just no railing. So like, why? I don't understand. Now, let's talk about Splatoon. It's my favorite game of all time, so of course I'm going to talk about it. This was a screenshot I took a while ago that I always thought was very funny. So the one, there is literally a level called Hammerhead Bridge. So when I was looking at it, I thought, not bad. You've got these huge, massive bits of concrete that are going to these supports. The supports look kind of odd, but it's Splatoon, so they of course decorated it up. And I was like, seems normal to me. And then like a lot of these bridges, I looked a little closer. This is not how gusset plates work. So the one on the bottom right is a real gusset plate, and that's how many bolts that you would see. And you can see that all of the steel beams that are meeting up there have bolts going through it. Some of these bolts aren't going through anything. Some of these bolts are going, like just barely going through the steel beams at all. So they're not really doing anything. I hope they welded underneath it because otherwise they're just not really well connected at all. So a little dangerous there. And additionally, this is just asking for a bridge to get hit by another bridge. That is really close. I was glad that I looked down at that because I was like, oh, that's cool. They actually show traffic, even though literally nobody who's playing this level will ever look at it other than me, apparently. And they got really close. So they need something called either fenders or dolphins, which direct away barge traffic from your piers. They don't always work because, again, barges have a lot of momentum, but they're at least some kind of early assistance to help get ships out of the way of these bridges. So as a bridge designer, you can only design for so much before it becomes just completely overblown. You'll have concrete piers that are 30, 40, 50 feet wide to try to resist some of these forces. So there are better ways to do it. And the odds of things happening, a lot of the current code is based on statistics-based loading and so on. So the odds of a bridge getting hit, especially if you put in some of these systems, should be a lot lower. This is a high risk area for sure. Additionally, I went into Nicopolis Plaza. They have a little pedestrian bridge that is connected to a lot of buildings there. This one also seemed not too bad. It actually coordinate with building construction a lot, which is sometimes around, especially the Atlanta area, you'll have to do, like the Centennial Yards that's getting built. There's like Spring Street that I think had a lot of coordination with that. I think it was Spring Street. I worked on a couple of the projects that have had some building coordination, or at least have talked to some of my coworkers that have that. So you have to coordinate with different disciplines in order to make sure everything is lining up. I think the only thing is, like, you'll probably see some torsion in that corner where there's not really a support, but with the support, with the buildings right there, you can at least possibly tie into them, depending on how that coordination went. So it might not be that bad at all. All right, let's talk about Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
I should ask, has anybody here been to my DragonCon version of this presentation, other than my like friends out there? You went to one? Okay. You're gonna hear some repeats, I'm sorry. So this is the entire reason this presentation even exists, is this game. And I wish I could say it was for a good reason. So when I went to go take screenshots of this, I was like, surely this will be an easy one to do. Like, I'm not too bad at this game. And I went to the bridge over Lake Hyrule, and I thought, yeah, I'll just defeat this thing really quick and deal with that, right? So I ended in the water. And I was like, taking screenshots from here. So I've been talking about how arches work in compression, right? Columns also work in compression. When there's no column there, there's no compression resistance at all. That shouldn't be working like that. That should be in the water like I was. Arches do not do that, and I was so angry that I made this whole presentation for that. Again, not attacking video game designers, but that's not right. So I went in there and I was like, what could possibly be in this that might be a saving grace? And I looked inside, and there's just bricks inside of the column. Just floating bricks. I don't understand that. So I was like, there's got to be something else in there. Like, something is responsible for this, right? So I climbed in even further. And you know what I found? I found a Korok. This little guy is a danger and a menace to the world of Hyrule. It should not be allowed to be in these bridges. I know this Korok did something to these bridges. I don't trust it. And as soon as it's gone, the bridge is gone. You can't be driving on that. Then there's also the dragon, but we're not worrying about that right now. So after that, I was like, okay, I gotta find something good. And this one, not too bad. This is Proxim Bridge, west of the Dueling Peaks. It actually doesn't look too bad at all. There's some vegetation on it. The railing could be a little bit higher if you're gonna get any like bike traffic, but for pedestrians, it's probably okay. It's a standard arch. There's some cracking that you want to fill in. But again, for the most part, not a bad bridge. So they have a wide range in Tears of the Kingdom, for better or for worse. So I'm going to move on to some honorable mentions here. I got a lot of questions about this one at DragonCon, and I was like, I got to talk about it because I know that it's going to be a big thing. Why? That's my main question about this one from Twilight Princess. Please don't take the bridge out and then just try to put it back in. There's no connection holding it other than magic, and I can't design for magic. I design for trucks and pedestrians. I don't design for, it's probably okay. I don't design for that. I need to know numbers. I don't need to know, it's not great, not great. Please don't do this to my bridges. Next, this is the Murky Graveyard from Metaphor Refantasia. So there are several bridges over a mass graveyard of dead soldiers. Really uplifting and fun, right? So pretty messed up underneath. The bridges look great. Steel trusses, they look designed pretty well. I don't know why they have that many. I guess this gorge is really highly traveled. I don't know why you would travel over a graveyard that often. But the bridges look fine. I have no problem with these, other than underneath. This is in Civ 6. This is the Golden Gate Bridge. You all know the Golden Gate Bridge, right?
Yeah.
I don't have much to say other than, oh cool, they put a bridge in a game that I know, that everybody knows. The weird thing is it looks really squished compared to the actual Golden Gate Bridge, and it's not like when you build it, it's not really connected to anything, even if you have roads and railway underneath it. So, you know what? Sure, why not? And lastly, in my honorable mentions, this is Vancouver Velocity in Mario Kart 8. It says suspension bridge. It's actually suspension bridge. They labeled it right. Yeah. So that is all the presentation I have. I'm open up for Q&A. If anybody has any questions, I will be glad to answer them, funny or not. I saw your hand up first, sir, in the back with the striped shirt. Yeah.
Well, you might have already answered this, but is there like an example where it like meets your like I like this as a bridge, like if it was a real bridge, but also as like a personal favorite of yours?
I keep thinking I need to actually come up with a favorite bridge because I don't really have one.
Oh, okay.
There are some. So my previous version of this presentation had some of the ones on City Skylines, and the suspension bridges that they have on there are actually pretty good. So I do like those a lot. They actually put thought into it. All the ramp bridges they have in there, terrible. But the suspension bridges they have in there are pretty good, I would say. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
Have you inspected the bridge from Stormwind and World of Warcraft?
I have not. I've not played World of Warcraft, but I will happily write a whole bunch of these down. I have a list of more that did not make it on this presentation because I didn't want to go overboard with it. I think I have a good like 10 or 15 more I can add to it, but I want to make sure there's time for back, Q&A. Yes.
Is there like a bridge in history or currently that you wish that you were involved with that you were super excited about?
I think the one that I think would be interesting, maybe not necessarily from a design perspective, but the oldest bridge in the United States was built in, I think, 1690 something. And to just be like, no, that's something that I could build then. It's still up in 2026. It's super cool. And it's still in service. It's in Philadelphia. Just an arch bridge, and there's a park around it and everything. It's the oldest one in the country. And I think that would be something that I know could last that long. I think would be really cool. Because like our bridges today are designed for 100 years. I'm going to be gone in 100 years. I assume a lot of us probably, unless something weird technologically happens. But to know that my work continues on that long would be super cool. Yeah.
If you could turn inspecting bridges into a game that would actually be fun for the general public, what aspects of it do you think would work well with video game mechanics?
Oh, that's a good question. Bridge inspection into a video game is interesting. I think so. Any video game that you take a job and make interesting, I think you have to add more than just the standard. Okay, here's a steel beam that's got some deterioration, that's got an eighth of an inch of steel gone. I think you need to add something that causes your job to be harder. Of like something's coming after you, or something like now it's raining and now you're slipping all over the place, or it's like icy underneath everything. Like I think you need like hazards and things to like make it difficult for you to do your job. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, way in the back.
What about rope bridges?
Ooh, rope bridges. I'm not too familiar with a whole lot of one. I know there's one in Chattanooga, Sea Rock City, of course. Everybody knows that. Those terrify me a little bit because rope is not like, I don't know how to design rope bridges myself. There's not a whole lot out there because they're not really a designed bridge. They're a draw some rope and I think just pray. So I'd be careful going over any rope bridges, and hopefully it's been inspected in the last year because I wouldn't want to wait 2 years to inspect those. Yes?
Are there any other building types that catch your eye besides bridges in video games?
Building types. I'm so focused on bridges that it actually is kind of hard. I mean, Corpse Crossing is probably the closest I could come to of that, like, because they had a whole bunch of stuff that was just hanging off this bridge, and my thought was just, why are you doing this? When you get to like interesting skyscrapers, I mean, those are for like not just me, they're for everybody to just admire, right? So any like massive structure like that I think is interesting, but like when you get to the small structures, like I'm not inspecting all the people's houses in RuneScape. I'm not looking at random little shacks in Baldur's Gate 3. I'm looking at the bridges themselves usually. I get a little too distracted sometimes. Yes?
How do you feel about Jeff Bridges as he appeared in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance?
I mean, you gotta love Jeff Bridges, right? I have nothing bad. I got nothing bad against him, or nothing against the guy. Like he chose. I assume that's not his real last name, but if it is, he chose, or if it's not his real last name, he chose right. If he just has that, I might change my name. It is his real last name?
Yeah.
I might have to change my last name, sorry, Mom. Well, yes. And which one? Mario Kart World. So I looked at a couple of them. That honorable mention was the, oh no, Mario Kart World, sorry. I have it, and I started doing a little bit of looking around in it. But I will get, probably the next version of this will probably have a little bit more with it. It is definitely on my list of all the different games that I want to get the bridges for. Because I know you can open Rome, and that makes things, because that for the Mario Kart 8, it was a lot of me doing time trials and trying to see what I could see on those. But Mario Kart World having the open world is going to be really nice with the screenshots. But for the most part, I do want to look at that one for sure. That is on my list. Oh, they have a collapse bridge in there too? Perfect. All right. I'm going to mark that down for sure. I saw somebody way back here.
Sorry, hi, you stole my question. So if you did this again, I'd love you to look at the bridge in Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is one that I think I forgot to put on here because I do want to talk about that one because that one is insane in multiple ways.
Yeah.
In terms of that is a crazy design that they did, and also it's super huge, super cool, but also I don't understand. They have all of those single arches, and
right.
with arches working compression, if you're only doing one leg of them, all of that force is going one direction into the building at the end. So that building better be able to hold that force. And those are all, man, I should have put this on here. You know what? I think I have the screenshots. No, I don't have it on this computer. Shoot.
Google it.
No, I don't want you to see my internet history. But I'm just gonna.
Nothing but bridge porn all the time.
Hey. But it also ends up on a hammerhead pier, so it's just a single cap with a column in the middle, and those huge arches end on that. Why don't they just send them to the ground? I don't know why you're doing more structure. It's going to be on the next presentation of this, I swear. Let's see, what else we got? Yes.
So they say that once you see something, you can't unsee it. And now that you can see every problem in every bridge, do you feel cursed?
Oh, yes. Cursed to stop and look at every bridge in a video game I see. Both in a video game and in real life, as I'm looking at a bridge in any context, I'm like, oh, what are they doing with it? It's just such a, ever since I started working in bridge design, it's been I wouldn't say curse because I enjoy it. It's kind of a curse, but it is very much a fixation of mine of what do they do with this structure? Especially even in some buildings, if they've got the rooftop open, I'll just be looking up at the arches that they've got over there, what are they doing with that? Interesting. it's a thing for sure. I've been over there a lot. Yes.
How do you feel about Sky Arrow Bridge for Pokemon Black and White?
Sky Arrow Bridge. I don't know Pokemon Black and White. I'm sorry. I'll definitely take a look at it.
It might drive you a little insane.
Oh.
Got a lot of curves.
Hey, as you've seen with this presentation, a lot of these bridges kind of drive me a little nuts. So, yes, in the back.
Yeah. Since sometimes dams allow traffic to go over them, would that be something that falls into your category? Is it a completely different field?
It's a completely different field, actually. So dams work completely different because it's all holding back, all the forces, all the water that's going over it. And then the road on top of it technically would help a little bit because when you add that compression into the concrete, that actually strengthens it a little bit. But they're, in that report card that I talked about, there's an entire section that are just for the dams in Georgia. Just a random side fact, there's no natural lakes in Georgia, from what I understand. They're all dammed lakes. So near Lake Altoona and the ones that I'm not remembering right now, they're all man-made. Yes?
You've seen plenty of crazy bridges in games. What's the craziest bridge you've seen in real life?
Okay, I'm not going to tell you where this one is. There was one that I went to inspect. So I haven't seen a whole lot of crazy stuff. I've heard stories of some really crazy ones out there because I worked with a lot of older engineers and they've got all the stories. There was one that I went to look at where, the beams were sitting on concrete and the one underneath where the beam was sitting, there was a massive spall that took out probably about half of the area where it was bearing on top of that. And I was very surprised about that. I was like, I don't know that. Like, I'm glad we were doing a maintenance project for that one. And I was very glad to get that one up and going because that looked a little iffy. Additionally, the most interesting asterisk one that I worked on was my previous company used to send me out to Oakland, California to look at the Oakland, California airport bridge. And we were doing nighttime inspections in downtown Oakland, which is a very interesting place to be at 3 in the morning.
Yes.
I will say that there was, so the bridge that I had like a cable system for moving the train back and forth. And at one point, somehow with this mile-long cable, I found one spot that had what I believe was a bullet hole in it.
Oh.
So you get some interesting things that you see during inspections. We were okay, like we were safe up there. We were 50 feet in the air. Also, we were 50 feet up in the air wearing ropes trying to climb around this big truss bridge. Very interesting. It's definitely one that like I enjoy going to the first couple times, and after a while, it's like I can't do nighttime inspections. I'm getting a little old now. Not crazy, not that old. Oh gosh, yes.
So, if you were to, there's a spot where you're driving a tank and having tank-based contact on the grid. I'd love to know your thoughts on strictly driving over some of the destroyed sections of the grid.
Yeah, definitely. So tanks on bridges, so there is military loading in the AASHTO specifications that we use. So it should be able to hold the tanks. It shouldn't be able to withstand the shelling from the tanks. Like bridges are infrastructure and they are targets. There is an old joke between civil and mechanical engineers that civils make the targets and mechanicals make the weapons. And that's very true. I make a lot of the targets for the bridges. So having a tank drive over it, fine, no problems at all. Having a tank fight on it, I don't like that for I like it for my job security. I don't like it for the bridge's perspective. Yes, you've had your hand up a while.
I was just gonna ask, are you gonna upload this presentation as written in here?
Yes, so, that was one of the things, what's my time? Oh, I still have like 15 minutes, 13 minutes or so. So yeah, I am recording this presentation. I have the world's smallest YouTube page where my Dragon Con presentation is. The only social media I have is on Blue Sky. Because I'm a big Splatoon fan, my name is Incarus, if you want to look that up. I don't think it'll be my pinned post, whatever. But I'm just West Hunt, I think, on YouTube. Again, I can send it to you after the fact. If anybody wants to see the Dragon Con version of it, it's some of the same ones, some different ones. But I would gladly share it around with y'all for sure. Yes?
Now, was your concern of the shelling at the bridge or on the bridge?
So if you are a target on a bridge, I think a shell hitting you in that general vicinity is dangerous because depending on the type of bridge, do you know if it was an arch bridge or what type of bridge it was by chance?
I'm assuming a suspension bridge.
Oh, a suspension, that's even worse. Because the suspension bridge, the way it works is you have your cables that go across and then cables that come down and hold your bridge deck up. And there's sometimes beams underneath it to hold the deck up. So once you put a hole in that, you could break at least a part of it. The rest of it should be okay for the most part, but as soon as you're starting to put holes in it, you're deteriorating the structure very rapidly in a way that it's not expecting. So yeah, shelling on the bridge or anything that's hitting you. Now, if you're shooting something when you're on the bridge and they're not, it's probably okay. For a suspension bridge, you're probably going to see some sway. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the bridge in, I think it was Minnesota, from like the 50s. There's that famous one of it just like swaying back and forth from the wind. That was a major concern there, and like a lot of the forces that you don't expect on when they were still early on in bridge codes, they weren't expecting the wind to cause that much of an issue. So now in Halo, I imagine their design specifications have gotten a lot better. It's a lot more futuristic than currently. There's always research going on. But shooting off of it, you'll probably see some sway because that huge sideways force that you're seeing, or even like longitudinal force along the length of the bridge, that is not something it's necessarily designed for. It's just designed to hold the loads and the wind that's coming on it for the most part. And it's held itself too. But yeah, if you're shelling away from the bridge, you're probably going to be okay. Oh yeah, is there somebody? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see right there. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely limits of what you would call cantilever, I think, is what you're describing. Like, you have a support, and then you have something just going over with no support on the other side, right? Yeah, so there are limits to that. After so far, you get into deflection limits, so how far it'll bend down, not necessarily how strong the steel is underneath it. There was, at my last job, there was a bridge that they were designing, a pedestrian bridge going between two buildings, and they had to put a pier very close to the building and then cantilever out to the building itself, and had a lot of worry about what that deflection was at the end, so that people walking across it might notice that they're like bouncing up and down, notice that there's like a sudden dip, so there's a lot of considerations. It really also depends on like how deep you can make that structure. So if you make a really deep steel beam, you can go further than if you have like the shallow concrete beam. Steel will work a little bit better, but it has more flexibility than concrete. Does that answer? Cool. Yeah.
Can you go back to the slide that has all the different types of bridges?
Sure. Maybe. This one here? Yeah.
Okay. You're playing a bridge dating. Which one are you choosing?
Which one am I choosing? Oh, man.
Oh, bridges.
So here's the thing. I am a generally open person, so it's hard for me to decide. I mean, you see those cables. I think that's all I gotta say. You see those cables? Yes.
There was a game that I forget. It was in the beginning, but where it was made over a gorge. How do you think they would have built that?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. Constructability is a because I know it's my time at Samurai. This one here?
Yes.
Yeah, that is actually a really good question. I mean, one of the problems I don't think I mentioned was that like on the end there, you can see it's going into rock. So this is not a situation I've seen a whole lot of. I'll be honest. I'm not gonna lie to you. There are ways to do a cantilever construction to where you're slowly building out as you go. How you keep it from falling out in the middle, I think that's a huge engineering issue. But there are ways to be like, okay, we're starting on the left, we're starting on the right, and we're going to meet in the middle. You have a lot of geometric constraints, you got a lot of surveying out there to make sure that you're good. But I think they probably have some kind of counterweight to hold it up, like behind where it's all stable, to hold the structure up as they're building out. And then when you finally put that middle section in there, then you release all that stress and it finally goes into the supports itself. That is how I believe that goes. Any structural engineers that want to correct me, please do, but that is my understanding from how they would build across boards like this. Like you obviously can't build from the bottom up. That is how most bridges are built. But when you have these constraints, you have to get a little bit more creative. And that's where the engineering comes into play. Yes, in the back.
Are there any bridges that you have not seen in real life yet that are on your bucket list?
Ooh, a lot actually. So I've never been to New York City, and I would love to see the bridges in New York City. I have seen the Golden Gate because I was in Oakland, so I'm right there. I'm gonna go see it. But I think a lot of the ones in New York City are a lot of the ones that I really want to go see. I do have plans at like very vague mental plans of like I want to take an Amtrak train up to New York City and see a lot of that up there. That is the main one. I think there was one I almost went to see in Colorado that is a gorge bridge that goes over a massive, I think you're like a mile, it feels like a mile up I think when you're on it, but it is over a massive, it's a pedestrian bridge over that. I think that would be really cool if I ever made it out there again. But at the time it was COVID and we didn't really want to drive around a whole lot to see some stuff. Yes?
Yeah, do you have any prominent examples from the 8-bit or 16-bit era?
Ooh, 18-bit or 16-bit era. I did have, on my previous version of this, I had Nugget Bridge from Pokemon Red and Blue. I might have to go back and look at like the original Mario, maybe some original Sonic stuff. I will say in the pixel art category, I do know Vampire Survivors has Eternal Bridge on it, or Endless Bridge on it. But I will gladly take recommendations of what bridges to look at over there for sure. Yes?
On the subject of 8-bit, the original bridge where Mario fights Bowser. What's the feasibility of chopping that down with an axe?
Chopping it down with an axe, I'd have to know what it's made out of, because if it's over lava, it can't be timber, right? So it's probably steel is my best guess. So the steel is probably really weak from all the heat. As you saw with 85 burning down in Atlanta, bridges don't do well with heat. That was concrete. Steel, it'll deform a lot, so if it's already deforming with all the heat rising from the lava, you might just need to do one real good smack with an axe to get it down. But it's
Bowser
holding
jumping isn't
Bowser.
enough?
Sorry?
Bowser jumping on it isn't enough?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like Bowser and you and Mario are jumping on it a lot. So maybe there's a specific weak point, but the fact that you can chop down a bridge with an axe means it's not working very well in the first place at all. All right. Oh, yes. Over here, yes.
Yes, you kind of answered this question earlier about having taken a look at bridge sales in the original Sonic.
I have not. Remind me after this. I will absolutely, yeah. I am more than open to a lot of bridges that y'all want me to talk about for sure. I love doing this presentation, as nervous as I seemed at the beginning. I saw your hand up and I'll get to you. Yes.
Is there a maximum height? As in, could you reinforce Rainbow Road?
That's another one where magic, I feel like, comes into play. I don't design rainbows. I don't know what the structural capacity of a rainbow is. I feel like you can probably talk to leprechauns, maybe, or unicorns. But I'm not licensed in the Mario Kart world as a PE, so I can't say that I can design Rainbow Road to work out too well. I believe somebody over here had a question. Yes?
I know you have a lot to say about some of these bridges, but which do you think is the worst video game bridge you've seen? Worst video game?
Worst constructed or worst overall? It's like that bridge over Lake Hylia is the worst one that I've seen. Again, it was the impetus for this presentation ever existing in the first place. I feel like a lot of, and again, I'm not attacking video game designers, I feel like there's a lot of like good ideas out there that are just not quite executed how a bridge engineer would do it, right? In terms of like, oh, these supports at the end are just like going into the polygons of the soil behind it. Those Scarlet Violet ones I was not really pleased with because they're just going into these rocks that just kind of are there. There's a lot of clipping in that, so anything that does that, I'm not a huge fan of, I'll be honest. But yeah, that bridge over Lake Hylia is the 100% worst one I've seen. Yes?
Have you investigated any of the bridges in like Dark Souls and Elden Ring?
Not yet. I will gladly throw that on my list.
A lot of cool architecture in those games.
Because I know there's at least a couple where like dragons drop on them, right? And I don't think bridges are designed for dragon loading.
There's a bridge that you raise out of the lava in Volcano Manor in Elden Ring.
Yeah, like why is there a bridge in lava? Like bridges shouldn't be in lava. That's bad for them. We still got a few minutes left, like 2 minutes left. Yes.
Sorry if you've already answered this, but why do bridges start at 20 feet? I know it's like an inspection thing.
Why do they start where? Sorry.
Why do they start at 20 feet long?
It's kind of an arbitrary number, I'll be honest. A lot, so like the code history, a lot of the code was just, oh, we know this works, so we're gonna write it down and say this number works. There's a lot of equations. It's like, oh, it's 6 plus this is good. Not without real action. We just know it's worked for 20, 50, 100 years before that. And then recently they've gotten into a lot of statistical analysis of like, okay, the odds of this breaking in 100 years is this. So we'll set our safety factors, we'll set the loads to this. Why 20 feet specifically? I think that's just a carryover from all the old codes. Just like, we need a limit somewhere, and that seems like a reasonable number to say, okay, start designing at 20 feet or more. Or like do like more intensive designs from here. Yeah, I can't unfortunately read the minds of people from 100 years ago, so that is my best guess as to how. I don't see any other hands. Yes?
Have you taken a look at the bridge from the first where it's going across the ginormous canyon and you're going to see crazy stuff on the bridge?
I feel like did those ropes break? Because I feel like that happens in anything anytime you have a fighting scene on a bridge, they're gonna cut the ropes to it. Like that just happens every time. That just breaks my heart. I would love, so some people suggested me looking at anime bridges as well, in like movies, but like the problem is that with video games, it's a lot easier for me to go around and like take time to actually do kind of an inspection on it and see it. Whereas in anime, you'll get like a screenshot here, I don't really do anything underneath bridges in anime very often, and at least not looking up at a bridge where I have all my interests at. So I don't really get that many chances to look at those kind of bridges. I know, like, if you see a big rope bridge, somebody's gonna cut it, and it's gonna be falling anyway. Same with like Samurai Jack. I think they also, the Scotsman and Samurai Jack break that bridge too when they get trying to cross each other. Yes.
What are your thoughts on glass bridges?
Terrifying. I don't know, like, I've seen them, and I generally don't have a huge fear of heights, but it's like looking down and seeing a gorge underneath you, I wouldn't want to walk on that, and if it works, it works. I don't want that to, I don't want to design that. I'm like, those things scare me. Not from a structural engineering point, like from a personal standpoint. Again, if it works, I don't know how well glass can hold up, and that's why you only see people walking on it and not trucks. But they're just, I think for the most part, they're mostly like panels, right? That are interspersed with steel between them. So I don't think you can span very far with glass. That stuff is really fragile. And I can go into like fragility and everything a lot more in depth, but I think I've hit 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
So again, if you really want to find me online, my only social media presence is Incarus on Blue Sky. I'll be posting a link to the YouTube video there. If not, maybe I can.
How do you spell that?
Sorry?
How do you spell it? Just
Inkarus.
Okay.
Icarus, but ink, because Splatoon. It's also my name in Splatoon, so. But thank you so much for showing up. It was a lot of fun.